समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
आप समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
As trade talks officially resume between India and the United States of America, many questions still remain. The primary one has to do with trust. After the 50% tariff, which by the way is still in place, was slapped on India by Donald Trump, and a slew of extremely strange, borderline rude and often directly rude comments about India from the Trump administration, there is a caution and in some quarters a skepticism about the United States of America. But talks have resumed. Prime Minister Modi and President Trump have exchanged at least a couple of somewhat friendly messages on the social media network X. And you also have a new claim, because how could you not, from Trump aide Peter Navarro, who made two claims. One, that Modi looked uncomfortable with Xi Jinping in China, and two, that it was Modi who made a friendly comment on X and Trump reciprocated. In fact, it was the other way around. As trade talks resume, we'll be looking at the geopolitical challenges and the unanswered questions that continue to dog the relationship. I'm Barkha. You're with the Mojo story. On the program today, a new claim from Peter Navarro, who really till at least a few days ago was coming up with an insult a day when it came to India. India, of course, chose in a way the rhetorical high ground, not getting into any sort of slanging match with Navarro or other members of the Trump administration. And now here we are, after all the sort of ugly rhetoric emerging from the Trump administration, trade talks have resumed. This after at least 25% of the 50% tariff slapped on India is a so-called punishment for the purchase of Russian oil. India has in the past said that India will purchase oil wherever it gets the best deal. From Russian oil to American corn, American officials are now complaining that a country of 1.4 billion people doesn't even purchase a bushel of corn from the United States of America. In the midst of all this, these images that you see on your screen is this the moment that led to a change of tune in the Trump administration? Did it take Modi to go into a power huddle with Putin and Xi Jinping for Trump to change his mind? And the most important question of all, has Trump really changed his mind, or is this another Trump mood that we're all living? Let me introduce our guests on the program today as we try and make sense of the age of Trump. India's former Army Chief, General V.P. Malik, is with us. Always a pleasure and an honor, sir. Good to see you. Veteran diplomat, Ambassador Dilip Sinha is with us. Always a great pleasure, sir. Good to see you. And also joining us from Washington this morning, her time, is Seema Sirohi, author and senior journalist, somebody who has been reporting on geopolitics for decades and decades now. Welcome everybody to the program. As these talks resume, I want to play out Peter Navarro's latest statement. He wasn't rude this time, but he still made a couple of odd claims. Take a look. We don't actually... Okay, let's get comments in while that statement is being readied. Seema, is there a change of mood in Washington?
Slight change of mood, I would say, with the exchange of messages between President Trump and Prime Minister Modi. A little bit of political space seems to have been created in which the negotiators will try to work out a deal. As you know, the American negotiator Brendan Lynch is in Delhi today. So let's see how that works out. But the 50% tariffs remain, and Trump is now saying to the European Union to impose 100% tariffs on China and India. Europe is not keen to do that because that would mean they'd have to impose tariffs on themselves because they buy Russian petroleum products, gas, etc. So it's basically the bottom line is that Trump is very frustrated that he has not been able to put an end to the Ukraine war. And he's kind of flailing, I would say, trying to tell the Europeans to get in line with the Americans, etc. So we shall see where it goes. But right now, India's aim would be to get this 50% oil tariffs set aside, because without which there can be no, forward movement, I'm told.
We have that statement from Peter Navarro. I'm just going to play it out and then come right back to all of you. Take a look.
It's like,
Peter, you want to talk about India? Are they ever going to come to the table? That's what we were going to talk about.
yeah. India's coming to the table. Modi, I don't even know.
Are they the worst? You call them the Maharaja of tariffs?
The Maharaja of tariffs. But Joe, the Modi, Prime Minister Modi sent out a very conciliatory, nice, constructive tweet, whatever they do in India. And President Trump responded to that. We'll see that. This is how this works. But as a practical matter, we know that on the trade side, they have the highest tariffs of any major country. They have very high non-tariff barriers. We had to deal with that like we're dealing with every other country that does that. And by the way, there's this issue of India buying Russian oil, which it never did. You understand? And watching Modi on a stage with China, which has been its longtime existential threat, and Putin, that was an interesting stretch. I don't think he felt comfortable doing.
So a lot of assumptions there. Before I get General Malik Seema, just a quick comment from you. Actually, he's making a factually inaccurate claim there. He is saying that it was the Prime Minister who sent out a friendly tweet and Trump reciprocated. It was actually completely the other way around. It was Trump who put out a post and it was the Prime Minister who then reciprocated. Did that strike you as significant, or is this typical vintage Navarro?
It's typical vintage, the administration. So my reaction would be, so what's new? Getting the facts and the sequencing wrong. That's all politics over here. So I guess Trump's people want to show that he didn't make the first move, that India made the first move, which we all know. Factually, President Trump put out a message that was sort of a softer message. And the Prime Minister responded. So, Navarro is not taken extremely seriously, I'm told, by the White House. He is there mainly because he went to jail for 4 months for President Trump. So there's a lot of gratitude the administration and the president himself feel towards him. And he's not part of any negotiating team as such. He's just broadly there to send out these harsh messages.
So he's the bad cop when the administration needs a bad cop. General Malik, I want you to come in on the sort of security challenges that India is faced with today. This friction-filled relationship with America, a cautious sort of reconciliation process with China, an extremely volatile neighborhood which includes Bangladesh and Nepal. Nepal may actually calm down faster, we think, than Bangladesh, which has many problems from an Indian perspective. And then, of course, there continues to be Pakistan. There's been a cricket match that most of us believe should not have been played, and so there are many, many challenges, including China helping Pakistan in Operation Sindoor, and the Americans now cozying up as well to Asim Munir.
Barkha, there is no doubt that there's a lot of strategic churning that is taking place all over the world, frankly. And for India, yes, it is important. Again, to some extent created by President Trump, the kind of statement that he has been making and trying to put India into a corner by imposing all those extra tariffs on account of our purchases of oil, etc. while this churning will take place, continue to take place for some time, and we will be required to reset to some extent our relationship. But here I want to mention that our relationship with USA has been strengthened for last 25 years that I have seen. Ever since Kargil War, in fact, we have not only built relationship, but we have also built strong security relationship, whether it is on the defense side or it is on the, there are a very large number of agreements that have been signed at sovereign level. And there are a lot of exercises which are going on, military exercises which are going on, and none of them have been stopped. Nobody has, neither USA nor China, so nor India. So as far as the present event is concerned, I think we will be able to get over. This will not going to strain much our relationship with USA, because it is far too deep now for one president or his advisors to try and
But he's still there, sir, for another 3 years.
yeah, that's all right. 3 years is not a long time in strategic relationship when it comes to. We have built it over 25 years, as I said. So this also we will be able to get over. It's not a problem. And in any case, even in the Trump administration, there are a number of people who would like this relationship to continue. So as far as that is concerned, I still feel that it is quite safe. There may be a slight dilution here and there. But as far as the other countries are concerned, yes, we have maintained our sovereignty and our policies on that score, whether it is trade or it is economic side or it is defense side. Another thing that surprises me is that with USA, we once signed a treaty in which the USA waived its objections to our purchases of equipment, defense equipment from Russia. That includes S-400 also. So those are already in place. They have not been deleted or got over. So
Yeah.
I think this is a temporary phenomena. There may be some dilution on account of the churning that is taking place here and there. And but as far as US-India relations on the security and the defense side is concerned, I don't think it is going to come into any harm in the near future.
So let me bring in Ambassador Dilip Sinha at this point. Ambassador Sinha, one of our regular viewers, Saurabh Vashish, says, Today it is stop buying Russian oil. Tomorrow it will be stop buying Russian S-400s. Then it will be stop buying French Rafales and submarines. It was implied as much in Sergio Gore's testimony. Sergio Gore is, of course, Trump's chosen envoy for not just India, but also for South and Central Asia. Do you agree with General Malik that the worst seems to be over? Or does the proof of the pudding actually lies in the proverbial eating? Because still this 25% at least is taken back, is walked back, which is the so-called penalty for the purchase of Russian oil. How have we really moved forward?
Well, I entirely agree with General Malik on the point that the other aspects, especially the strategic aspects of India-US relations, are going ahead as per schedule. So we don't have to worry about that. Yes, we have a serious problem on the tariff issue. Now, it is gratifying to see that it is America that is sending this delegation, which should have come here towards, I think August 26th was the date for it to come here. So it was last month. Now they have come 3 weeks later. Now, that is gratifying because it means that we can hope that our tariff negotiations will be back on track. Of course, we will have to insist on at least that 25% the sanctions on account of Russian oil should be removed before we proceed, at least before we get into any serious negotiations on this. But we have to also understand that Donald Trump has also softened. And we have to ignore people like Navarro, the discredited economist, because, and I'm glad that your system actually had difficulty finding his tape, which actually have been removed from there. It's not worth
But I
looking
mean,
at.
how do you ignore him when he's clearly used by the Trump administration as their sort of attack animal, using that phrase metaphorically? He's consciously being used. He's not some fringe player on whom. It's not as if Trump doesn't know what he's saying day after day.
We are both very robust democracies. We have all kinds of conflicting messages coming out of both out of government and out of our leadership, out of the opposition. So we have to accept that we have to look at the main direction of the relationship, in which direction it is going. And we have to accept here that Trump has softened. The line that he had taken earlier, he has softened because I think Prime Minister Modi sent him a message that we have options, especially his visit to China. And it's because of this that he has accepted that a delegation must come here. There's been a lot of criticism within his own party in the US that the efforts of at least 5 former presidents, including he himself in his first term, to wean India away from China and Russia has been reversed. And that is not a good thing, because Trump has not been able to take any action against his good friends Netanyahu and Putin. So he's been taking action on soft targets like India and his NATO allies. He can't take action against China because China has leverages that he cannot ignore. So given this situation, the fact that he has agreed to send a delegation to India, I think we should look at that as a positive development and then move forward from there.
Seema, I want to bring you in. I remember one of your columns through this period where you said that actually the problem was that India was not getting through to Trump, and that you basically thought that there was a kind of messaging problem, a kind of communication and narrative building problem, because in an administration like the Trump administration, where decisions are taken top down and not in the Indian way where officials are actively involved, you felt that the message, we didn't have Trump's here. What changed? I mean, is it a new lobbyist? Is it something else? What changed?
So, there's been some reporting in India that there was a meeting. One report said that Trump met somebody on the golf course, a private Indian citizen. And another report said that a senior Indian official met Marco Rubio somewhere else in a third country. So I haven't been able to confirm any of that. But yes, over the past 4 or 5 months, I have felt that India wasn't able to reach anyone in Trump's inner circle, which kind of created all sorts of other problems, because he's the only one who makes policy. It's not bottom up, but it's top down, as you said. So I'm glad something happened somewhere. We shall find out hopefully in time. But I wanted to make a couple of other points in response to Ambassador Sinha and General Malik's comments. Number one, Navarro is speaking to the MAGA crowd. So it's like, he has to keep them happy. Trump has to keep them happy. The other thing is, I think while the relationship is in an okay place right now, I would say some amount of trust is gone, and Indian diplomats or Indian establishment, whatever you want to call it, they'll be much more careful going forward, and it will take some years to rebuild that trust. The vibe is kind of different. I know India has been very polite, very mature in how they've dealt with all the insults, all the vitriol.
I think the Wall Street Journal said that Modi had responded with a stiff upper lip to these insults.
Right. India was the adult in the room, and, to Navarro, the External Affairs Ministry spokesperson, I mean, he just dealt with Navarro with understatement. I think that was brilliant. And, why stoop down to the level of all this? So being the adult in the room, but I think India might have, it's going to move forward with caution, I would think.
And just before I go to General Malik and Ambassador Sinha, do you believe something fundamental has changed? Or do you believe something has changed only slightly? Seema?
I don't think something fundamental has changed, but everyone I talk to who's in the government talks about the trust factor. And that's a very precious commodity. It is very intangible. It takes years to build. And while India recognizes that the relationship with the United States is extremely important, India needs the US for technology, for geopolitical counterbalancing, etc., etc. Lots of reasons. India has a huge diaspora here. At the same time, India has said that or has shown it needs to be treated with respect. It's not going to bend the knee. And I think the message went through because every American analyst, when they saw photos from China, they said that Trump had lost big time and it was the biggest strategic mistake.
Well, I think, General Malik, the tactic, if one can call it that, the SCO summit served its purpose. It certainly shook the Western media into reporting the tariff standoff between India and the United States of America. But if I may ask you to talk a little bit about what happens with China now. You see, two things are unclear. We actually don't know. Trump is going to be talking to Xi Jinping, I think, later this week. And having embarked on this process with China, how do you see that relationship? Especially given the situation in eastern Ladakh, especially given the support to Pakistan in Operation Sindoor.
Barkha, I said that our relations, particularly defense on security side with USA, are far too deep. And I said that there are so many agreements which have been signed and the exercises are still going on. Every few months you have these exercises, military to military exercises. Here also with China also our relationship is deep and on the negative side. We cannot forget what has been happening all along, even though we had the good shake hand with the president of the Russia as well as Xi Jinping in the last SCO conference. But again, I think that was also more to exhibit something, to make it visible to the Western world, particularly the USA. But as I said, the relationship is far too deep, and I don't think India can take any chances. While we want to improve, we want to have peace and tranquility along our line of actual control, but I don't think we can wean China away from Pakistan or the other way around. And I don't think those strategic aspects which have played their negative role ever since 1962, despite some years of peace and tranquility on the line of actual control, they would be forgotten by us. And therefore, I don't see very much of a change between our security relations, particularly with China, although we may improve on the social side and on the economic side, because both countries are wanting to do that. We want some stuff from China, and the Chinese also know that India has a huge market. So those aspects will probably continue to play their role on the positive side, but our relationship on the security and the defense side is not going to change very much in the years to come.
I mean, of course, all of you know so much more, but I completely agree with you in your skepticism or from a security lens with China. But Ambassador Sinha, I want to bring you in. Another viewer, Prasad, one of our regular viewers, he says the Chinese competition to the US is real, and in front of them, the US cannot isolate India with tariffs and also risk losing India to China and Russia, which, if you remember, is what Trump had said in his post. That was the trigger for the US to soften up. Is that what you think? One. Two, as I mentioned, Trump will be talking to Xi Jinping later this week. and it's going to be very interesting to see whether Trump continues to treat China as an adversary. We know he wants to cut a deal, and that in itself is going to have an impact on our security options, I imagine. Ambassador Sinha.
Well, we have to be prepared that Trump will go ahead and do whatever he can with Pakistan for various reasons and with China as well. But we have to remember that the relationship between China and America has very strong adversarial elements. There are problems like South China Sea, Japan, Taiwan. All these are issues on which there are very strong strategic differences between the two countries. So while for Trump, China has been a factor because of USA's deficit with China that I believe is slowly coming down, and he intends to take action against that. And I suppose he'll also try and promote his exports, because one of the things that he had lost out was soya exports, which China turned to Brazil. So for Trump, his exports for key elements, especially agriculture and certain other elements, are very important. And he will try and promote these with China. So we have to be prepared for that. But then we have to remember that there is a trade angle and there is also a strategic angle. And on all these, we have to build different relationships with different countries. It is not as if we'll be in the American camp and not have any dealings with China. After all, as a major power, we have to have different kinds of dealings with different countries. Our strategic problems with China will continue, and our cooperation with the US will continue. On tariff, we have a problem with the US. On trade, we have a problem with China. And these we have to deal with as on a serious basis.
Seema, Jeffrey Sachs, the economist, who's of course a Trump critic, he was on my program a few days ago and he said, "Oh, Modi must be very careful. India must be very careful. Don't get taken in by Trump's sudden sort of turn of mood. It could turn as easily tomorrow." And one of the other points he made was, don't look to the US to be in your corner against either China or Pakistan. And we have a similar comment coming in from our viewers. Saurabh says the US embrace is like that of an octopus. Buy their weapons, their oil, invest in their industry, but do not expect any form of collective defense against China. They want to suck India dry. Now, this may be an extreme view, but there's an interesting thought here. And the thought is this. If the main sort of strategic goal of the Quad from an American perspective was to contain China, and Trump somehow succeeds in I don't know, making some progress with China, notwithstanding the adversarial issues that both General Malik and Ambassador Sinha have just pointed to, does that diminish India's importance to the United States of America, assuming it was purely transactional to begin with?
So there are many balls in play right now in Washington. Number one, the Defense Department, the Pentagon that is, has to release this major strategy document that they do every 3-4 years. Early reporting on that document says that there's a complete change in terms of posture of the United States, meaning that they want to focus now on the Western Hemisphere and on the homeland, which means that the focus on the Indo-Pacific will be reduced. At the same time, we heard from the nominee to be ambassador to India, Sergio Gore, during his confirmation hearing, that President's commitment to the Indo-Pacific and to the Quad is strong, remains strong. So I just don't know what to make of it yet. Trump is very clearly looking for a deal with China. He is very keen to go to China with a big business delegation. And in fact, their negotiators were just meeting just the other day in Europe, and they seem to have reached a deal on TikTok. So it's just not clear what Trump's China policy is and is going to be. So as a result, I'm sure India and other countries that are going to be directly affected by what he does or does not do, they'll make their own plans, they'll do their own hedging, they'll do their own strategizing. But right now, it's not clear what his China policy is.
That's very interesting because, General Malik, if there is indeed a fundamental shift, and as Seema said, we don't know, we'll wait and see. But if the Indo-Pacific is not as important to the Americans as it traditionally has been. There is even some reporting, Seema, please correct me if I'm wrong, that it may not even be called the Indo-Pacific anymore. One is also picking that up, the subtle changes in language. What from a security lens for you would be India's biggest concern? There are some who continue to believe that our biggest adversary is China. Even when we talk about Pakistan, there would be, if you took China's hand away from Pakistan's head, it might be a very different picture. So how do you see some of these shifting sands?
Barkha, I don't know what kind of, whether they will continue to back Quad or not, or they will probably dilute the faith in that. But the fact remains that Quad was definitely much more important to USA than to India. For us, it was playing a role far away from our primary interest of our continental as well as on the oceanic Indian Ocean part of it. So if they want to put their role in that area because they want to strengthen their relationship on the western side, it doesn't really matter to us. For what matters to us strategically is the Indian Ocean, from the states of Malacca to the western side, as well as the continental side, the huge border that we have got with China. And I think we will continue to focus on that. So it really doesn't make too much of a difference to India because, as I said right in the beginning, that it was more important to the Americans. And they are the ones who brought us into this whole issue of calling it Indo-Pacific Ocean. If they want to again rename it and go back to the old one, it doesn't really matter to us.
Can I ask you, before I come to Ambassador Sinha and then to Seema for a closing word, if you had to assess India's security challenge, let's say in the next 5 years, what is the area or entity that you would pay the closest attention to?
Certainly the land border with China and Pakistan. That is far more important, as well as also I would say Indian Ocean, that which we are now building up. I would say we are building our strength in that area. So that definitely remains more important. And as far as China is concerned, we want trade to continue. We would like to see that the South China Sea is available to us for our trade going to eastern side, to Japan, Taiwan, and China. But I don't think we would really want to fight in that area. Neither do have the resources to indulge in that kind of a thing.
Ambassador Sinha, how concerned would you be if Trump was able to cut a deal with China? I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I do take the point that there are some serious, structural issues there. We also have, similar comments from our viewers. The US-China trade deal is going to be very tough for the US. US needs China to buy soybean and all rare earths, etc. US cannot strong-arm China. It will have to bend. Trump doesn't like bending. He has a giant ego. I'm not sure what he's hoping to achieve in his call later this week with Xi Jinping. But from an Indian perspective, how concerned would you be, Ambassador Sinha?
Well, I would be concerned to a certain extent because the fact is that in the Quad, these four countries had come together with a common concern, and we still stand by the Quad. You must remember two things. One is that the president of the Philippines had visited India very recently, and it's one of our major buyers of defense equipment. The Philippines is one of the countries concerned with China's expansionism. And then the prime minister went to Japan before he went to China. And that was a very important visit. So obviously in our outreach, we realized that while the US may withdraw from the region because it is not technically an Indo-Pacific power. But there are other countries in the region that are also concerned with Chinese expansionism just the way we are. And we have to continue to make common cause with these countries and keep in touch with them. We may not become allies with them, but we certainly need to ensure that we are on the same page with them. The US, it's an important partner. If it comes in, well and good. If it doesn't, we still are countries in this region. We cannot go away from this region. So we have to make friends and with countries which are concerned about peace and security in this region.
Seema, my last word to you would be this. There's been a perception, or rather my last question of you would be this. There has been a perception all these weeks that the spat as it was developing between Trump and India was not about trade, or was not exclusively about trade. There was, miffed sentiments over Operation Sindoor. There was the flattery that the Pakistanis were offering, that something went down between Prime Minister Modi and President Trump in a particularly acrimonious phone call. You yourself have written about this on the 17th of June. Given that the talks have now resumed, would it be safe to say we're back to this being about trade? Or are all of these other issues also somewhere in this messy mix?
See, they're lurking in the background, I would say. They're not taken care of. India has to find some political answer for the grievance that Trump has, whether that means Prime Minister Modi calls him or, somehow acknowledges that he did help in putting pressure, quote unquote, on Pakistan to come and make, do the ceasefire. Whatever method they come up with, it would help, it would ease. But I don't think it's the dominant thing anymore, like it was a few weeks ago. Right now is his frustration with not being able to stop the war in Ukraine and Putin just blowing him off pretty much. So he's trying every which way he can. In the end, I would say Delhi and Washington need to have some very honest conversations about the future, because there is a feeling in certain people over here that we can't always be talking about what India brings to the table in the future. What can India do now? Here and now. So they have, there are people here who have determined that India is not going to join the fight. Let's say if China takes over Taiwan and the US decides to intervene. Mm-hmm. All of those questions are also lurking in the background. How much can the two countries help each other strategically? There are all kinds of things going on, and it would be good to have those conversations, because, as you know, the most prominent observer of US-India relationship, Ashley Tellis, has been writing very critically about India and how it hasn't sort of come up to snuff, so to say.
Well, I think it's quite interesting, because what India is being asked to do by the Trump administration is upend something that's hardwired into India. We used to call it noun alignment, we call it multi-alignment now, but it's quite clear, I think, at least I'd be very shocked if this ever changed, that India is never going to be an ally in the conventional sense of any country, including the Americans. Ambassador Sinha, General Malik, you can correct me if you have any different takes on Seema. Quick reactions to what she said. General Malik, I'll start with you and give Ambassador Sinha the closing word. This expectation of India being a conventional ally, I don't think this is going to happen in our lifetime.
No, I don't think so. I think India is now far too strong on its feet to sort of bend its own policies of whether it is foreign policy or it is our defense security policies. So I don't think that will happen. But, on Seema's comment, I would say that the clap is clap happens when two hands join each other, and it cannot be only left to India. So it has to happen from both sides. So as long as there are people like Navarro and all, they are going to make it more difficult for India to also look in that direction. But I hope that sooner or later, both President Trump and Prime Minister Modi will be able to meet each other, and a lot of things will get sorted out. As it is, I noticed that the ice has been broken recently, and hopefully this will continue to melt.
Ambassador Sinha, the last word to you, from the Ashley Tellis sort of school of argument that, and you've heard other Trump officials in the last few weeks echo this, pick a side. That's effectively what they've actually said to us, pick a side.
Well, there can be no last word in this debate, but I entirely agree with Seema that we need to do something about the trade deficit that has been a major concern of Trump. We cannot possibly go around for years having a surplus or a deficit. Broadly, they have to balance. That's one. And the other is that I think let's look at the positive. Thanks to Donald Trump, we have had the biggest GST reform in our country. And the government is now focusing on ease of doing business in India because we realize that the problem lies back home in India. Our tariffs are high because our companies are not competitive. So we have to improve our business competitiveness in India to make ourselves a major part.
Well, at least there's this one thing that we have no hesitation in thanking Donald Trump for. Only kidding. So many balls up in the air. I think it's very difficult to predict what's going to happen next. Certainly a thaw. The fact that the talks are happening, the fact that the US negotiator is here in the national capital. I think if I had asked you 10 days ago, we would have all said it ain't happening. It's happening. So I think that's somewhat of a sort of a progression in what was looking like an unbreakable impasse. But as all of you have pointed out, there's certain fundamental questions that still remain, that continue to dog this relationship. Hopefully we'll have answers in the days to come. Especially, I think the arrival of the new ambassador is going to clarify a lot on which direction the Americans intend to move. Thank you so much, General Malik, to Seema Sirohi and to Ambassador Dileep Sinha. Thank you, and to our audience, thank you. See you tomorrow. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.